ready to talk to you for a few minutes this morning about a few things. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. It's already, August 5th? Boy, where has this year gone? This has been a tumultuous year, 2020. Finished our 7th month in, so the year is almost halfway over. And, this is going to be the year that started off with, hashtag 2020 vision. And boy, do we have 2020 vision, even though I have my glasses on right now. Boy, do we have 2020 vision right now. We have had, again, a tumultuous year, and we've got a full 5 months to go. And, just praying to God that things get better, praying that things improve, that we get this COVID-19 coronavirus under control and prayerfully out of our systems and out of this country. Hey, good morning, Simone. How are you? So, got a few things to talk to you about. This is probably, and a lot of people, and I hope our younger people really realize it, that this may be the important election that's coming up in 3 months of our lives. This could be the most important election. This could be a time that we go out and vote, and we need all of our people to register, and all of our registered voters to vote. No matter what state you're in, you still need to vote because it's very important. Now, Alabama is a red state. We do know that. Alabama is a red state. Dorothea, good morning. Cynthia, good morning. Appreciate y'all joining me. But even though Alabama is a red state, there are other races that are important. There are local races that are going to be on the ballot that are important. There's a senatorial race that's going to be on the ballot that is critically important. And even though, and I don't agree with the Electoral College, I think it diminishes what America was set up on, where it's one man, one vote. Because if one man, one vote, Al Gore would have been president instead of Bush, and Hillary would be president right now. And I might not be as adamant about getting out. I would certainly think that we ought to vote all the time. I don't think I've ever missed an opportunity to vote. But it's very important because there are races below the top of the ballot. But even in the presidential race, we need to make our voices heard. And so not only should you go out, Alabamians, and vote, we need to encourage our friends and our colleagues and our relatives and our loved ones from across the nation to get out and make sure that we vote. Make sure that we vote. This is important. I've been listening to a lot of folks on the news, and I think that they're all absolutely right. The American system, the way we do things, is at a crossroads right now. We can pull it back and make sure it works like they wrote about it working when the founding fathers created the Constitution and declared their independence from Great Britain, from England. Or we can let it become something else, something that looks more like the autocratic kinds of governments that we've seen. I mean, we saw it in Germany, we've seen it in Italy, we see it now in Russia, we see it to a degree in South Korea, we see it in China. There have been, places in Africa that have had these autocrats running government, and government run by dictators and autocrats, and these kleptocrats don't change. They keep the same people in power for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. And, it wasn't very long after the current president got in office that he said to the president of China that, oh, I envy you because you get to be more or less president for life. And so now we're seeing his rhetoric around, well, we shouldn't vote. It's going to be rigged. He's setting it up. And so be cognizant of that kind of stuff that's happening, that kind of conversation, because it's the kind of conversation that is a prelude to some changes in the way we do things, and perhaps even changes in the way our democratic society is working. So vote. I grew up in a family that voted. I can remember, I'm old enough to remember when there were voter registration drives, when Black people weren't automatically given the right to vote. Yeah, I heard about, folks going to register and asked to tell the number of jelly beans in a jar and, stars in the sky and some ludicrous, crazy questions that had nothing to do with your ability to vote or your right to vote. Literacy test and that. So, I remember conversations about that kind of stuff happening. And I'm so happy that we didn't. So when we were young, and I guess I was probably 5, 6, 7, I may be 7, 8, 9, which meant my brother was 7 or 8. My sister was probably 4 or 5. But my mother was the president of the Civic League in Roosevelt City. So shout out to the Roosevelt Civic League. And we had to go to the meetings with her because she wasn't going to leave us at home alone. We were too young. And she wasn't going to pay for a babysitter for that hour. So that was it. That was out. So we had to go, and we had to sit down and be quiet and behave. That was one thing that was mandated. So I guess while you're sitting down and you're quiet and you're behaving, you hear the conversation. And so, it is indelibly just pasted on my brain and etched in my mind the conversations that they were having about voting back in the late 50s and early 60s, before there was a Voting Rights Act, before John Lewis marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, before the demonstrations, the Selma to Montgomery March, and before Lyndon Johnson actually signed the Voting Rights Bill into law. You can't make this ish up. Speaking of Lyndon Johnson, I heard 45 say that he had done more for Black people than perhaps Abraham Lincoln. And then the reporter mentioned Lyndon Johnson, who signed the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Bill, who started a war on poverty. Now, I don't know how successful that war was. It looks like poverty is still winning, but we still need to fight the war. But LBJ, 45 says he's done more for Black people than LBJ. Now, I don't know. I've seen some of the folks who've gotten on there, some of his pundits that happen to look like us, who've gotten on those programs and, kind of gone along with some of the stuff that he was saying. But I, for one, don't buy that for a second. I think that he's done more to harm us because he's done things to harm the nation. He's done things to harm the economy, at least the economy that we're concerned with, because we're not multimillionaires. We're not the corporate government owners. We're not folks in the very high tax brackets that don't want to pay taxes. We're not the folks who would be in the very high tax brackets, except there are loopholes to keep them or allow them not to pay taxes. So if we're not them, then he hasn't done much for you. And I really wish more of my brothers and sisters with less melanin in their skin would really understand that too, because he hadn't done anything for you either. As a matter of fact, for the past 50 years, you hadn't had government serve you. Government has served your masters. And I know when you think about masters, you think about Black folks in slavery. But when you think about it in a different way, you go to work and you work 30 years and you have very little to show for it, while the owner of your company, great-great-grandchildren will always be wealthy, regardless of what they do and what they don't do. So keep that in mind. This is what has happened to middle-class America. we've had our most productive half century in terms of productivity, technology, all of those things that you would measure. We've done great, but the middle class has done the same. The middle class America is in the same position that it was in 1970, 1980. So you've made more money, but money doesn't go as far. So your standard of living has not increased. You still don't have a bunch of money in the bank. Yeah, you got a house and 2 cars and a mortgage and a car note. You can send your kids to school, but many of your kids had to get a student loan, even though you're doing well. Yeah, you make 6 figures, but 6 figures don't mean that much anymore. And so don't get duped to think that things are so great. But anyway, you can't make up stuff when somebody says that black people are fared better under me than anyone else, and I'm responsible for it. And when he had that paper to try to explain that we were doing okay with the coronavirus, I thought I'd come apart. So that paper was really, really telling. But the bottom line is, if you're trying to fool somebody, sometimes you get away with it. Oftentimes you don't. Let's not get fooled, okay? Let's not get fooled. Somebody's trying to make a fool out of you, be wary of that. I wanted to talk a bit about business, and let me mention GastonBusinessInstitute.com, GastonBusinessInstitute.com. Go online and register in the business directory. I was asked yesterday, and I pulled together the names of hundreds of small businesses, African-American or Black-owned small businesses, to give to one of the supplier diversity professionals in our area. I was happy to be able to do that, but I pieced that together from several sources. But I want us to do, to try to see how many folks that we can compile in our various business directories. We're doing one on our website. Of course, there's the Birmingham Black Business Directory. Hats off and a shout out to them as well, because we need to know who our Black companies are, so that when there's an opportunity afoot, we know how to plug you in, and we know who to plug in. We know how to get in touch with you. We know your phone number, your address, your email address, your owner, what you do. Those things are very, very important. And it just helps us in those ways. And then what I'm hoping we can do is we can create this sort of Black consumerism, or this Black consumer movement that has us seek to purchase from our own folks. Seek to purchase from our own folks. I may have mentioned this in the past, but $1 circulates in the Jewish community over 30 days. They spend money with each other. Hats off to them, no shade, no, don't get on here and say I'm not anti anybody. In the Asian community, it stays in there for days. Now, even in the Hispanic community, it stays there for days. In the Black community, it stays for 6 hours. 6 hours. 2 reasons: we don't have enough businesses, or 3. Number 1, we don't have enough businesses. Number 2, we don't have enough of a variety of businesses. Or maybe come up with some more. Number 3, we don't own the businesses in our communities. And number 4, and all of that kind of contributes to number 4, we don't trade with each other. So you add those 4 things together, and you get the dollar staying in our community for 6 hours. That is bad. So anyway, want to try to help you. That's what we do at the Birmingham Business Resource Center. That's what I do, is to try to help people start, grow, and develop businesses. And if you're trying to start a business now, well, first of all, I admire your courage. It's a tough time. It's always been tough. It's never been an easy time to start and grow a business. Never been an easy time. It's always been fraught with peril and uncertainty and danger, because business is volatile. Even in the best of times, small businesses, don't always make it. And we know that this is not the best of time. But if you are starting a business, Tamika, good morning. Cornell, good morning. Good morning, Lanye. How are you? No, Lane, I'm sorry. Gotta get my glasses on right. It's good seeing all of you out here this morning. Thanks for joining. But if you're starting a business now, especially in this moment, and there are some things that will flourish even in the worst of times economically. It's kind of like rolling that dice and maybe hitting 7 or 11, or just maybe having the right plan at the right place at the right time, and some of that may be present. But when you're looking to start a business, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself, and some things that I want to help you with right now for just a few minutes. Why start a business? When to start a business? How to start a business? And who can help? And I'm going to start with the who can help. I'm ready, willing to help you. Now, I believe in prayer. I do, and I'm going to say that if you are thinking about starting a business, you do need to pray about it. I think that you need to give yourself some time to think and pray and plan. Planning is important. There are a lot of biblical references to planning. Write the plan and make it plain. That's in the book of Habakkuk. And it really is one of the things that supports the development of business plans. Write the plan on tablets and make it plain. So make it plain so you can, have something to go by, a plan that you've done some research. So those things are important. Understand that if you're starting a business and if you're seeking advice, and certainly I want to give you advice, but understand that no one has all the answers. And not all the answers are going to be the same. Advice is going to be different based on the advisor. So the advice you get from me may not be the same advice you get from somebody else. And none of us have a patent on correct advice, because correct advice doesn't really exist, because environmental stuff changes. What would have been good advice in January might be terrible advice in August. What might have been great advice in 2018 might be terrible advice in 2020. And so don't blame the advisor. Understand that things change. And so also understand that there are several avenues to small business success. Robert, good morning. Jessica, good morning. Tamika, good morning. Shannon, hey, good morning. How are y'all doing this morning? There are several avenues to business success. Nothing is simply destined to fail, and nothing is simply destined to succeed. And so just keep that in mind. And just again, and I think I mentioned this last week, 1 Timothy says that fear is the enemy of entrepreneurship. Well, I haven't known very many successful entrepreneurs who were fearful. But what I've seen is I've seen people who had done their plan, had done their homework, knew that they were prepared, and then they overcame fear, if they ever had any. And they went boldly out into this world of business, making their mark on it and making sure that they were successful. So it's very important to know that jobs are going to continue to disappear. We've got to drive employment in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and among our people. And so it's very important, again, that among our folks, we have successful entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship, that we can have any kind of success measure that you want to use, whether it's possessions or happiness or ego or self-actualization. Success is not always about the bottom line, but you got to make money to stay in business and continue to have the status, continue to have the possessions, continue to have a good feeling about what you've done. So there is a numerical or monetary bottom line for success that you must have. So anyway, just want to make sure that you understand that. When do you go into business? When you're ready. And ready is sort of a term that, you might be ready or you might think you're ready. But let me just give you a couple of tips on readiness. When you're ready financially, in my opinion, if you're starting a business and you need the business to succeed so you can pay your personal bills, you're not ready. As a matter of fact, if you could live without the business paying any of your bills for a year or more, then you are getting close to being ready. So that's financially ready. Emotionally ready, things are going to go up, things are going to go down. You got to be emotionally prepared and equipped to stay the course and to weather the storms, to make sure that when things aren't going the way you want them to go, that you don't give up, quit, or, have panic attacks and, do all that kind of stuff. Professionally, that you've got the training and the background and all of the things that you need to have in order to have a go at success. Again, success is not easy, but you've got to be prepared and got to have all the things that you need to give a real go at success. And so those things are really, really important to sort of take a look at yourself and say, hey, I'm ready. I know I'm ready. So, self-evaluate, understand that there are some characteristics that I think that you ought to have. You ought to be a self-starter. You ought to get along well with others. You ought to be good and confident at decision-making. You got to be persuasive, energetic, have knowledge, energy, passion, savvy. All of those things, I think, are important self-characteristics that you want to have if you're going to go into business. There's some good reasons to go into business. If you're the best at what you're doing and you need to be doing it for yourself, that's a good reason. If you're going to a job and if you spent that same 8 hours working for you, you'd improve your economic condition, that's a good reason. If you are at the end of a career, but you're still energetic and still have knowledge and you've got some money to leverage, then those are good reasons. There are some bad reasons too. I can't get along with folks. I hate working. I just want to be my boss so I can call the shots. I want to go and come as I please. Those are probably not going to be some real good reasons to go into business. So, keep those things in mind. I want all of you to be successful if you decide to go into business. In fact, I want us to have more and more successful businesses, more and more businesses that work for the owner and that also work for the community, because that's important. If a business works for the owner, then a business works for the community. Just keep in mind that we all saw that movie Field of Dreams. Just because you started doesn't mean that customers will come. If you go on my website, I have some tips to gain and retain customers. BobDickerson.com, check that out. Tips to gain and retain customers, starting with how your business looks if you are, in a retail establishment, or if you're a business that people visit. Starting with how you treat folks when you get them, and also how you continue to treat them in order to keep them. And then that you've had enough of it, even in your plan, that you figured out who your customers are, what your customers want and need, that you understand why a particular customer came to you in the first place, because whatever got them with you is what's going to keep them there. And so if you got them there with customer service, with a friendly smile, with being efficient, with fair prices, that's what it's going to take to keep them. And so if you want to grow a business, not only is it important for you to get customers, new customers, but you want to retain your old customers. That's how you build your customer base. If your customer base is a revolving door, that is, when you get one, you lose one, and you get one, and you lose one, and you get one, and you lose one, that's the revolving door, then you're not going to grow. So the tip is to grow your businesses by growing your customer base. Now, there are other tips. Maybe you grow what you sell to a particular customer. But customers are very important. Without the customer, there is no business. And so one of the things that I want to just encourage you to do before I get out of here is to understand what your customers need and then understand how they need it, understand what they react to. And all of that is part of planning. I'm going to go into more of, why start a business, when to start a business, and how to start a business. But once again, I want to just invite you to check us out at the Birmingham Business Resource Center, mybbRC.biz. We are involved in the Rebound Birmingham effort, where there will be a lot of workshops and seminars that us and other organizations are a part of delivering to try to make sure that our businesses are able to rebound once the impact of the COVID-19 commercial shutdowns have gone, and we pray that that goes away as quickly as possible. We are engaged with several of our local banks, BBVA, Regions, and Renaissance, in doing some workshops and training seminars, all geared around some of the things that I talked about: starting, growing, and developing businesses, planning, understanding the financial aspect of running businesses, understanding what it takes in order to be able to get small business finance. And so those things are ongoing. You can check out our websites and see which ones of those are going to be available to you. And we want to make as many available as possible. And finally, if you have a business organization and you want me to talk to you, whether it's individual or in a group, we're still not doing a lot of face-to-face, really not doing any face-to-face, but this vehicle, these kinds of Zoom calls, I'm tired of them, but they're necessary right now. Then just let me know. Hey, I want you to win, and I want to help you have a great rest of your week, a great rest of Wednesday. This is Bob Dickerson with In the Black.